Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This will be a 1 versus 1 game on the new and different Terrace Fall Glades map for 1v1. So we've got my opponent here is human. He is MILF Instructor, and my account is going to be Megabear. So this this is basically going to be about as bear themed as you can hope to expect from an undead versus human uh, solo game. But at any rate, hopefully you are a big fan of bears and whatnot. But anyway, I'm going to be utilizing a fairly different strategy than undead normally uses, and actually all three of the heroes that I'm going to use in this strategy have been significantly buffed, or at least substantially buffed, from the new patch 1.29. Now I'm going to start the game off with a pretty crucial mistake, actually. I do my build order here, late altar, since I plan to go for a tavern hero. The panda, spoiler alert, so very bear focused here. But anyway, generally with a strategy, at this point, the next thing I want to build is a Tome of Relics, not a second Ziggurat. And as you can see, that is not exactly what happened. I totally was sort of spacing out a little bit, and I built, looking at like the base layout, and I was like, oh, I want to build a Ziggurat over here. That'd probably be a good spot. But I forgot I hadn't built my Tome of Relics yet, so was going to generally put it right here somewhere, and I need that Tome of Relics to be on time so I can get skeletons to facilitate faster creeping, taking less damage on, sort of less permanent damage on, or less damage on my hero and fiends. So you're going to see this is very late on the Tome of Relics. So, and I'm like, well, I can't really afford to wait that long for the Tome of Relics, so I just end up creeping the green camp without a Tome of, without a Rite of Necromancy. In the meantime, my opponent is doing a fairly good job. Well, maybe not. I think he lost some of that experience because of Lightning Shield, but he got enough of it, and I think he's going to get level. He's going to have crept 3 camps by the time I finish my second one. So he's going to get level 3 before me, and he's going to clear this expansion. So I don't know if the Tome of Relics would have put me like sort of on the, ready to attack him at this point, which would have been probably the best time if I could have got like 1 or 2 Breath of Fires or a Drunken Haze and a Breath of Fire on these workers right now. That would have been probably really strong. And I've got a Wand of Mana Stealing, so that, assuming I could actually, his Archmage actually had some mana to steal, that would be pretty useful to get 50 mana. It only costs 70 for Drunken Haze and or 70 for Breath of Fire. So that's almost another full. I mean, it's not close to full, but it's a pretty substantial amount of the Breath of Fire mana cost. It's 5 out of 7 in terms of a fraction, so 5/7. But anyway, I'm going to be sitting at this healing fountain again. Some of that is because I took a little more damage than I wanted to earlier. And as far as timing goes, I did scout his expansion with a skeleton. I didn't kill anything with it. He was still standing there. I got like 1 or 2 shots on a peasant, but I didn't kill it. So now he knows I'm over here. I only need like 1 more creep kill to get level 3, which is what I want before I engage him or his base. So I go here, I cast the spells on the creeps, and immediately, since I tagged the farm or just ran by it, he knew I was on the left side of the map. He was very confident just to run in here. I actually had set up an extra 2 Nerubian towers, and I got 4 wood ghouls here. So I'm not in a terrible position to defend this, though I should probably be focusing the footman instead of this water elemental with the ghouls, but or maybe even his hero. But regardless, though, he is going to only get 2 Acolyte kills. He's going to lose like 2 footmen, and we're both going to use a TP to get out. and he also lost one water elemental at least. So, in terms of the cost, uh, I probably came out slightly ahead. Losing 2 acolytes is going to cost me some gold, and also moving the acolytes off the gold mine cost me some gold. So it was probably a little bit closer than I sort of would immediately have thought. Since I mean, you just look at the units cost of 2 acolytes is only 150 gold, whereas 2 footmen is going to be 270 gold, and then a water elemental doesn't cost gold, but it of course gives experience. But but yeah, the other point of that is, moving my acolytes and losing 2 is going to cost me an amount of gold as well. So, but I do, have a pretty well leveled panda at this stage of the game, and I decided to just continue creeping here on the way. I'm thinking about it harassing his expansion with like an invisibility potion, an invulnerability potion, and I sort of luck out arguably and get a 1 of lightning shield, which generally is pretty useful against human. Most effective if you can have some units to cast it on, of course, rather than their own. If you cast it on like their peasant in the gold mine or in the gold line, that's generally decent. Though if they react quick enough, they can mitigate it a little bit. But anyway, timing wise, I would have preferred to hit earlier before these. I don't know what kind of towers he's got up, but I assume he's got some, and he's got 3 arcane towers, so they have good range. Feedback is pretty amazing against the panda, and and here's a big mistake. Coming out of invisibility, I come out of invisibility in range of the towers. I didn't use the invulnerability potion, which I could have. And so I didn't even cast Drunken Haze. I just got a Breath of Fire off. And I could have casted both of those from like right here, out of range of the towers. So that was a massive mistake on my part. And it's going to cost me, we'll see how many units I kill. I definitely need to get some of these kills for sure. He kills, there, I cast Lightning Shield. And I got 1 of the kills there, maybe 2. So I think I got 2 peasant kills, but again, I bought a potion of invisibility, a staff of teleportation, and a potion of lesser invulnerability. I mean, I didn't use that one, but again, 2 peasants, that's only 150 gold. He did move his peasants a bit, so I guess that's a little bit as well. But again, that was sort of not really effective enough. He's just rebuilds them. And he's got 16,000 gold to work with. So that's really what we're looking at. He's going to have that economic advantage, and it's going to be hard for me to sort of press through it. I don't actually go into Mass Destroyers, which is generally what undeads do. It would be very strong against these footmen, obviously. And a lot of things he can tech to. If I just get to tier 3 first, I don't have to worry as much about like Mass Siege Engine in that case, dealing with my Destroyers. The panda is going to be fairly good against flying machines, so that's another point. But yeah, the thing I wanted to say about the patch that's one of the sort of long overdue buffs that I would have loved to see, or I think is really good, is making Carrion Swarm hit mechanical units. For this specific matchup is really one of the few that really is going to shine. In no other matchups is there really a lot of like mechanical units out there, maybe Mass Destroyers or Glaive Throwers or something, but that's pretty unusual to see either of those. Statues, I guess being able to hit statues is pretty useful in undead versus undead, but otherwise it's really just sort of more common to see like flying machines or siege engines, and being able to hit those with Carrion Swarm, as well as reducing the mana cost of Carrion Swarm, buffing sleep sort of a significant amount, and buffing Vampiric Aura. And again, like I said, the Dreadlord movement speed was buffed, the Panda movement speed was buffed, and the Lich movement speed, which I'm going to get as well, was buffed. So, but the big one was the Dreadlord. He got buffed in pretty much every aspect except his ultimate. So many ways. So very useful, and you're going to see how just really on full display how well, maybe not full display, but you're going to see for sure how effective Carrion Swarm can be against siege engines. Whereas before it wasn't effective at all. Neither was like Frost Nova, Death Coil. No undead hero, racial hero, really had much power against siege engines or flying machines. So he's gonna, again, my micro could have been better here, but he forces a town portal. He really wants to kill that panda bear because I keep roaring at him, roar, but just can't quite get the panda down. So yeah, I'm only level 1 now on the Dreadlord, um, but that's okay though, because the panda is really close to level 5, and level 5 is strong enough. It was pretty strong, but level 6 just gets crazy with the panda if you've got, obviously you've got mana, but yeah, so now he's lost most of his army, and there's like that lull with this tank strategy where you're not going to have hardly any units. He's got the resources to build up a massive tanks. He's got the production to do it, but there was that lull in tier 2 where he really wasn't building any really big army. So, losing the footman puts him back to like, small army. But it does help him because he's in no upkeep most likely. Well, now he jumps to low upkeep, but which you really, a lot of times you don't want to wait too long. He's still got a ton of gold, so it's, I mean, a bunch of gold, not a ton per se, but 600 gold. He's really struggling on the lumber, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and creep this this fountain. I try to lure them away from the fountain of health. End up not doing a great job of microing these fiends. This one in particular is going to take way too much damage from this normal attacks. I thought I got them to like focus something else. I was trying to, but they weren't having it. So that was bad news. Again, another mistake that I made in this particular game, giving him getting him that much closer to his goal of beating me. So, but he doesn't have really mass upgrades on his tanks yet, siege engines, which I would have thought he would have had more upgrades. He only got 1 armor upgrade. I guess the blacksmith is here. So, but yeah, in terms of getting to his expansion, no way am I going near that with fiends, with my panda, hopefully, with the Dreadlord. 3 arcane towers, 4, 5 guard towers, pretty well positioned, blocking off the workers mostly. I mean, if I get like right here to cast Breath of Fire, I'm getting just crushed by towers. So anyway, I get a creep jack here, pretty good. I don't know if I kill any of his heroes. I probably should have tried, but no, I missed that paladin just barely. He burns through another town portal, so that's useful. He's got Staffs of Sanctuary on 2 heroes. Here in a bit, he's going to have it on all 3, which is a really, really cost effective. It's pretty costly as an item, but again, if you save, really saving 1 knight pays it off. I mean, a knight costs, I think, 245 gold. Basically, the Staff of Sanctuary is 250 gold, so, just saving like 1 knight really gets pretty much all your resources back for it, but in terms of impact per se, it doesn't give you resources, but anyway, and here's a little bit of luck here for me. One thing lucky is I've got this Murloc that can cast Ensnare, and the other thing is, look, Breath of Fire, Carrion Swarm, going to be hitting these tanks. It only costs 100 mana now for Carrion Swarm, so that's useful. So yeah, if just think if I had a Death Knight Lich there, I'm not having all that AoE damage. If I didn't catch him coming to my base like over here instead of when he already got there, this could have been. And this is only with 1 armor upgrade. Now imagine if they were like 2-2 or 3-0 or 3-2 or something. That would have been pretty scary. Even 2-1. I lost a crypt even with like probably the best 2 heroes I can get against tanks. maybe the Tinker. I don't with cluster rockets, but I don't know. The damage just isn't really there for that. So I don't. I've seen some players sort of say, "Oh yeah, cluster rockets now is amazing against tanks," or it's gonna be, but I don't know. Level 3 maybe, but definitely not on a level 1 or 2 Tinker. I wouldn't think. But anyway, uh, Panda and Dreadlord did some real work there, and the Dreadlord isn't even level 3 yet. So now he is now. So the next encounter should be even better since I'm 5 and 3. Uh, so that should give me a pretty good situation against these tanks. So now he's got 1/1 knights that he's adding into the equation. I don't think he should have added any knights, honestly. I think he should have just powered into tanks like all the way, get the upgrades all for the tanks, because knight attack upgrade is not uh, going to apply to the tanks. So if you split it between these two units, they only share armor upgrades. If you're going to get upgrades at all, you might as well max out the armor upgrades first, because the knights get that as well. But in all honesty, if I were in his position, I would have just stuck with only tanks. Two reasons. One is if I get destroyers, if has to have his army as knights, and I do get like destroyers, um, that I can sort of kite the knights with the destroyers with the AOE and be in a decent position. He doesn't against buildings. The knights, they're not doing full damage. Whereas the tanks are doing 50% extra damage against buildings, and you know, Frost Nova can affect knights. Frost Armor can affect knights. I don't have it yet, but I will get it later. So, and piercing damage is going to be much better against knights than tanks. Honestly, Fortified Armor gets a massive damage reduction on siege and magic, or sorry, not siege, but piercing damage. Whereas it's not quite as bad on normal damage. But heavy armor only, I don't think it reduces piercing damage at all, if I remember correctly. So, in that sense, knights are going to go down very much quicker to both fiends and destroyers. So you got to watch out for that. And also, just knights cost more. They're 4 food, 245 gold. Tanks are less food, less gold, and they're going to do more damage to buildings. So if you count here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think, buildings. If I counted this correctly. And yeah, he hasn't really been doing the greatest job, thankfully, since I've got the Panda and the Dreadlord, and I've managed to get leveled up pretty high with these heroes. And I also had all these Nerubian towers to slow the tanks down, Black Citadel, slow the tanks down. So I've been, in terms of strategy, I've been doing a pretty good job of sort of countering him. Now, I didn't have any meat wagons before. I'm going to build one here in a second. But yeah, I think he ends up ramping into 3/3 knights, which, the other point is knights are not immune to Drunken Haze. Tanks are. So, knights are more susceptible to the Drunken Haze Breath of Fire combo. They're more susceptible to Nova. They're more susceptible to Frost Armor, Destroyers, Fiends, like I said earlier. So, the only difference, I guess you could say, is knights do allow him to go after fiends. But again, honestly, the fiends are not. I mean, fiends and heroes, I guess he can do more damage to with knights, but not buildings. And buildings is really what he. I can't move the buildings, so Flame Strike. I can't dodge Flame Strike. I generally only have 5 acolytes, and can go for those kills real quick, and then he can just, I can't repair The statues can't heal buildings, so that's not going to be. Uh, if you can take the statues healing out of the equation, then that would be pretty important as well. But as it stands, he has sort of a mixture of knights and tanks. Not a terrible mixture, but against these heroes, um, I don't think, and just in terms of cost effectiveness, I don't think the knights were the good decision here. I think just tanks all out, 3/3 upgrades on the tanks. But instead, he's getting an attack upgrade on the knights. At least he did get the armor upgrades maxed out for both, so that's a good decision. But I think he does end up investing in the other attack upgrades for the knights. So, but yeah, I managed to hold this. I think he does kill the Black Citadel before I build like a boneyard. He's got over 2,000 gold, so that's arguably a mistake. My gold is down to 0 right now, so that's sort of scary. But yeah, you need to jump into 80 food before this battle. I don't know how much food he did have, but jumping into even into high upkeep for this particular attack might have been an okay decision, but he didn't. So so yeah, he very well could have beaten me with a little bit different decision making, spending his gold a little bit better. But he ends up mass leveling the Panda. The Dreadlord is almost 5. The Panda is 6. The Lich is almost level 2. But again, look at the buildings. I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 buildings here. 9 buildings, if I did that math correctly. 10 now with this going up. So now I decide to go on the offensive myself. I feel like I've got the advantage. I've got the Panda Ultimate, plenty of mana, items, statues. But here the positioning was awful. I was really confused when I ran in here. I didn't expect to get caught like right here. So I'm like trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to focus? I've got these statues. I like to keep them in a sort of centralized position. My destroyers, I had the destroyer sitting over here to scout for tanks. I had this Kobold Geomancer. I need to have those with the army as well. The destroyer is 5 food. The Kobold Geomancer, 2 food. It might be 3, 2 or 3 food, but it's a pretty good source of damage against knights. I can devour. Again, I don't even think I did the Drunken Haze Breath of Fire combo before that started. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I just sort of panicked. Like, the positioning was totally weird. The Panda was all surrounded. I didn't, I didn't really have, like, my bearings when I ran in there. I didn't really expect him just to be right there where he was and just to be clumped into this little choke type area. So I executed that pretty poorly. If I executed that better, I would have had a good chance to do some serious damage to his army with the Panda and the statues and everything else. But as it stood, though, I didn't do too much. He does have Staff of Sanctuary ×3 at this point, so so yeah, even with really good micro, he can save a lot of stuff. And if I'm not paying close attention, I maybe don't understand the true impact of saving that many units. I don't know how many units he saved overall, for sure. It would have been interesting to count, but saving 3/3 knights or 0/3 tanks after I did so much damage to them, if he can deny me those kills and they heal all the way back to full, he can do that 3 times every so often. That can really add up. He's already got the advantage of the expansion. He's going to knock this expansion out of mine, so that's not great. So yeah, looking at this, I got 49 food. My heroes are really strong. He's got 80 food right now, and he's got about over 5,000 gold left in his expansion. He's not in high upkeep, so he's only suffering a 30% income penalty. So 30% of 5,000 would be 1,500. So that would leave him like 3,500 gold, something like that, at least in that gold mine, if he harvested it full at a low upkeep. So that is a lot of extra units he can mass. I don't know why he's not getting I don't know if he ever does get the tank attack raise. I don't think so. The game's almost over. So yeah, this battle, 80 food against 49. Now, of course, some of it is extra workers at the expansion, but yeah, I throw down Carrion Swarm, I throw down Drunken Haze, Breath of Fire. I get, a lot of damage on his Knights. I don't know if I cast Nova. Apparently not. But yeah, he's going to try to heal. He does have Brilliant Sword to keep him, and a Regen Scroll if he wants to use that. But, I've got a Staff of Silence that can potentially be dangerous for him. Got Frost Armor. I've got these statues, even though I'm messing up and they're not actually with my army here. But, again, the Panda Ultimate, I Dispel, Taunt, lots of damage. Killed the Blood Mage. Again, Cycloning his Paladin, kept him from healing. I needed to silence the Paladin if I could. Even here, my micro isn't really amazing, but look how much, these Pandas are just going nuts. He had like 5 tanks that didn't do anything right here. He needed to send those to my main base, and there wasn't really an urgency to fight this battle anyway. Sure, if he could hold this expansion, that'd be, another huge source of gold. No way I beat him if he towers that up and stuff, really, but again, he had 5,000 gold at his other expansion, so he needed to be more cautious. I mean, playing that attrition game, he could have snuck a tank or 2 around and hit my main base, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, or just sent his whole army, everything at the buildings. Like I said, I think he only had like 9 or 10 buildings. If he gets there with the tanks, with the Knights, hard for me to hold that. And then I've also got to think about counterattacking, doing something to his expansion. I don't know how much gold's in that thing. Apparently it was 5,000. If I want to stop him from getting that, it wasn't really practical. I couldn't do it. I didn't have the army to really do it there, to knock out his towers and his army at the same time. So that was going to be difficult. I was really going to have to just really outperform him in the battles. And he already had like a 30 food advantage over me. Just imagine if he had another 20 food worth of units, or some, a heal scroll, an armor scroll, maybe not an armor scroll, but a heal scroll or 2, and a vulnerability potion, or whatever. So I think even at that stage, he probably still had decent outs to beat me, or to make it really difficult for me to win. And he decided to just fight a battle that he didn't need to, and lose it, really poorly. But and that's with the Dreadlord getting massive buffs on sleep. I say massive. I would call it buffs on sleep, sort of overall, pretty big ones. Lower mana cost, lower cooldown, really big for a reduced sort of maximum sleep duration. But it never really, against even halfway competent opponents, it didn't really last for the full duration. So that's a little bit irrelevant, to be honest, in the balance, unless you're playing against sort of poor players, or you get like a really lucky situation where, that lower duration doesn't, you can town portal away or something like that. But most of the time, I, would call this a buff. And then Carrion Swarm, of course, being able to hit mech. You saw how strong it was on tanks. Flying machines, it would be, it would be nuts to hit, 8 flying machines or whatever the unit cap is for Carrion Swarm. But yeah, I think this is a really solid hero combination. Maybe not for solo. I don't know. It's sort of a question mark. You could probably make this work in solo, I think, honestly, with all these buffs on the Dreadlord and the Panda and the Lich. I mean, the Lich and the Panda only get movement speed buffs, but the Dreadlord got a lot of buffs that are really big in this, against certain strategies in this matchup. But also in like 4v4 random team, I think this combo of heroes, at least the Panda and the Dreadlord first and second, gives you something that Undead never really had before, generally, with like Death Knight Lich, and that is a pretty decent scaling AoE abilities especially ones that can deal with mechanical units. You know, other races have like Shockwave, or I guess Elf didn't really have one, but we have Shockwave, Blizzard, Flame Strike. uh, you know, so those abilities were able to hit tanks and I guess siege engines with Blizzard, or sorry, flying machines with Blizzard, but yeah, Undead didn't really have that until now, and so you add the Panda in there with Karen Swarm, and you've got two really decent. I mean, obviously, the damage. I would still say Karen Swarm's damage cap should be upped a bit to compare to other spells. That would, you know, still be a little bit of a gripe, but it is way better now that you can hit mechanical units. Way better that it's only 100 mana. And also with those other buffs, the movement speed buff, which was pretty significant against a downside of the Dreadlord, now that's not an issue. Same with the Lich. You know, you really need it on Holy Aura for, you know, getting around and stuff. Well, now the Lich moves fast, the Dreadlord moves fast, the Panda moves fast, so, you know, you're not, before, if you went all three of these heroes with no one Holy Aura, your mobility was severely restricted on your heroes without, like, Boots of Speed or something, or, like, an ally with a Holy Aura or Endurance Aura. You would be in some trouble. Well, now it's not quite as bad, you know, they're pretty quick heroes now, so. And then the ultimates. The Panda ultimate is one of the best in the game. The Dreadlord's ultimate is one of the best in the game. And the Liches, you know, as a third hero, you're probably not really thinking about the third hero's ultimate. I mean, if you get that with other heroes' ultimates, you're probably just crushing the game anyway, but mostly. But the situationally, Death and Decay has its place as well. But again, mainly the Panda and the Dreadlord. If you get those heroes to level 5 and 6, they are forces to be reckoned with generally. You know, mass air units, you can hit that with Breath of Fire, Karen Swarm, Drunken Haze first, hopefully, but Drunken Haze, Breath of Fire, Karen Swarm, and then Nova. So you got a bunch of air units coming at you, you got a bunch of flying machines, Wind Riders, Hippogriff Riders, Griffins, Dragonhawks, you know, Guards, whatever it is, Bat Riders. You have really strong options against that. Raider Mass, really good options against that. Now, Unholy Aura is sort of useful against Raider Massing, but obviously if your army is there and they're attacking a Town Hall, Drunken Haze, Breath of Fire, Karen Swarm, Nova, that is pretty amazing against Raiders. Let's see, what else? Mass Huntresses, Mass Footmen, Mass Casters. You know, these strategies are fairly vulnerable to AoE abilities. Mass, I guess to some degree, mass mortar teams, um, mass rifles, mass fiends. You know, these, and even like with fiends and statues, or, you know, grunts and demolishers, if you see any of those, hunts and glaive throwers, whatever, you know, you see these type of oddball strategies, and it's nice to be able to cast Carrion Swarm and still do some damage to some of these, you know, mechanical units and stuff. Um, so yeah, it gives, you know, Undead a little bit extra, you know, tools to deal with these tanks, though, mainly tanks and flying machines. So I think it's a viable strategy. I think it will also be pretty good in 4s, where, you know, your second hero may be more likely to get up to level 6, possibly. So, you know, just imagine Infernal and, you know, the Panda's ultimate together. I mean, that's really pretty scary, honestly. I mean, I don't think I've ever, very rarely have I seen those two things together from one player. So, so yeah, that's gonna be the end of this audio. hopefully you found it fairly entertaining, informative. You got to see like the new Tears Fall Glades. You got to see, you know, me overcome a player who outmined me by like 9,000 gold. You know, he produced almost twice as many units. Some of those water elementals, surely, but uh, and probably a bunch of them workers as well. But units killed. You know, I killed way more. Buildings killed. He was way ahead on that front. You know, so, and I think he should have just kept hammering on that point. He, you know, still would have had a good, sort of a good shot on me. But anyway, hero kills was sort of my other advantage here. 5 to none, so that's a big deal. To be honest, I don't know if it was great that he went for the Blood Mage and the Paladin. Uh, I guess in terms of having the Staff of Sanctuary on 3 heroes, that's a pretty solid combo, uh, actually. But it does sort of cost you a lot of resources for a second and third hero, and those staffs. Um, it's a tough call. If he levels up Flame Strike a little bit more, you know, it's probably scary. If he levels the Paladin a little bit more, that can get kind of scary for Undead. But sort of a tough call there. Um, you know, if he would have just gotten closer to level 6 on the Archmage, that could have been really annoying with mass tanks. You know, maybe level 3 Water Elementals, level 3 Branch Aura, and or switching to Blizzard. But he didn't, so, you know, you don't really know. So, but anyway, this is going to be the end of the audio. Hopefully you found it fairly, fairly good. You know, I thought it was a really satisfying game. Of course, it was satisfying to win. If I would have lost, it would have been, you know, really a little frustrating. Not so much because I was, you know, I was obviously down in expansion like most of the game. So, you know, it would have been sort of like, okay, you know, I needed to do better in the early game, but again, it's like if I get all these buffs on these heroes, and then I still lose to tanks, even though I can hit them with Carrion Swarm now, and it probably would have been like, oh man, those tanks are still so annoying. But and they still are, you know, even then they still did some damage. Uh, but anyway, that's gonna be the end of this audio. ScryMind signing out.